Okay, here's a good chance for a little instruction on what to do when you have the antique handle set, which I might add, this is a Corbin. Awesome handle set. And somebody came along later and added a deadbolt above it for security, which is very common. The only problem with doing that is most Mortise locks are 2.5 inch back set or 2.5 inch back set. And most tubular style locks are 2 3/8 or 2 3/4. So as you go up this vertical line, you see it is off center just a bit. And no matter which way you do it, if you did 2 3/8, which this one is, it's going to make it a little bit closer to the door. And if you do it 2 3/4, it'll make it a little bit here. So you have a sight line. If I can keep the door from going up and down, you obviously have a sight line vertical cant right there. But it is pretty common to do. It's a good idea, especially on doors that have become unoperable with the Mortise lock at the bottom. If I can get this glare off the door here. I just noticed that. I'm pretty sure that is not how hinges work. I could be highly mistaken, but oh my goodness, I just noticed that. That's hilarious. So yeah, that's not how you hinge a door, guys. Anyway, so if we notice this handle, let's get some light. Okay, if we notice this handle is sticky and it's also loose, so we need to adjust these screws. Before I started videoing, this bottom screw, let's get back in the light. See, we had a bottom screw that is just old, you know, corrosion and so forth, and I added a new screw here, which I know is Phillips, but I'm sorry, that's just, you know, how it is. And I'm going to loosen this lock right here. And it uses little flatheads. Okay. And I'm going to back it off. And what's happened is it's gotten so tight that it's not allowed to operate properly. Like when those screws get loose and you go to do this, you're basically tightening that knob down, which makes it not want to operate. So you unscrew your screws. These screws are always problematic around the rosette because you have a very thin piece of wood right here. Let's see if I can block this. Very thin piece of wood that those screws go into before they hit the case of the Mortise lock. We can see this thumb turn is missing and somebody tried filling it in, which is probably why this got up here. So at this point, I'm going to stop and go grab 2 things that you need when you're working on old locks like this. Okay, the 2 or 3 things that you needed was for lubricant, Loctite for these screws, and a towel. So we're going to unscrew this. Now, you don't have to unscrew it all the way. It is better to do so because you're able to focus the spray further into the lock, but you could stop and get you a straw, which I don't have one here, and spray like that. And we see a lot of goop come out, which is what we need the paper towel for. So obviously this one is in rough shape. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew this all the way. You shouldn't have to mess with the spindles. I have another video talking about reinstalling these spindles. Back early 2017 video. But what I'm doing here is I'm just going to go ahead and unscrew this all the way. And these are the split spindles. So if you needed to take the lock off the door, you would separate these and slide it out, but that's not what I'm here to do. Another thing that you can do is the outside with the lighting. Let's see if we can keep it a stand. So while I've got the doorknob off, I'm going to back out these set screws. Just back them out, take them all the way out. Get my Loctite and put a little drip on each one. Okay. Recap our Loctite. We can see I've also done a Loctite video, but look how look, I gotta clean up my cap there. Alright, so we're gonna let that sit for a second while we're lubricating this lock. We see that the rosette is tight. So again, what I had said was the wood was pretty thin right there. Sometimes you have to unscrew these screws and rotate it just a bit. And it's funny when that's happened a lot, you take it off and there's like Swiss cheese all the way around. That's when it starts getting problematic. But if this one has not been moved before and for some reason these screws were not tightening down, aside from filling in with wood and doing all that, you could just simply rotate a little bit and put the screws in. But all we're doing is getting in here with the lubricant. And again, it'd be ideal with a straw, but we see that it's got a good bit of goop coming down. So we're gonna hit the edge of it here. I know the light's gonna transition. All right. And another good thing is to block the light again. Hold the latch so that it's in and spray up into the lock, which I'm going to do there. And of course the cylinder, even if you don't use it, just go ahead and lubricate it. So now that we've got that done, we're simply going to screw this back on. You want to make sure your spindles stay level. I'm doing this one-handed, so hopefully they will. Obviously, you wouldn't be having to do this holding a phone up, so you could just hold onto those spindles with your fingers and go ahead and screw it down. Every so often, if this is off center, especially if you do have to move this, you need to make sure that's centered because this goes into it. So every so often, this part of the knob becomes not perfectly round anymore. So what you would have to do then would be to come in with a file and lightly smooth that metal, that brass down, because most of these are solid brass. So we're going to screw this all the way in, and like I said, you see how it's starting to recess into the rosette. If your rosette is off center, you will know because it'll get hard to turn right there. Somebody at some time put this washer on. So what we do is we tighten it down, and when we tighten it down, it gets tight. So once you got that, you're gonna unscrew, okay? So that would be a little too loose. That would be almost right. And that becomes tight. You can feel tension when you start. So we're gonna back off. And possibly because of how that spacer is put in the door, you will have these screws to retain it. If you remember that spindle, it was a diamond shape, and you're going to be wanting to screw those screws in at those positions. So you always try to get it so the screws are facing down so you don't see them up here, and that can be accomplished with spacers. But sometimes one of the screws may have to be facing like sideways or whatever. But on this one, it feels like we have a good surface, a good tightness in the knob. So it's not too tight, not too tight, not too not tight. Yeah. So you can get this in with that Loctite so that those screws will not back out as easily. And I don't know the torque value of that, but it's a good. Got to give it a good. Okay. Let's see how the old fella's faring. That's one sign that it might be. Let's see if I can get this. Dang it. That's one clue that it can be tight. If you turn it and it doesn't let go like that, then that means your knob's too tight. Or just a bit off center. So we rock it up and down a little bit. Now remember, this lock hasn't worked properly in a while, so I'm going to hold this latch in. And again, I don't have a straw, and I know it's hard to see, but I'm going to spray up into that lock so that it gets up into the section where that spring latch is. Another thing is to hold it with your towel around this and hit that with a little lubricant. We see stuff still coming out of underneath here. And just double hit it one more time there. Okay. Still kind of fuzzy. So what we do is we're going to go ahead and take this cylinder out. Now this particular one still has this old Corbin cylinder, but this is a much easier way to lubricate the inside of that lock is by just unscrewing the Mortise cylinder instead of taking the whole lock off. Because once we have the cylinder out, we've got a hole that we can, if the door would stop moving. Okay, see a problem here. We've talked about this. I just talked about this in a video. Our thumb turn right there may be causing issues. Oh my goodness, what did I do? Okay, let's try it. Okay. Now, we have some rigged up stuff right there, but luckily the key cylinder nor the thumb turn are actually used on this door. So I don't think that's going to affect the operation of the passage feature that we're using this lock for. The passage feature being just opening and closing the door, not using it to lock or anything. I think that went that way. Alright, so then we're going to screw our cylinder back in. Again, it really doesn't matter because it is not a used cylinder. If they did want to get it used again, looks like it could be done. Just Just needs a new thumb on. Alright, so let's get the lighting back. And we can see after that lubrication, we have perfect function. And give these little guys another tightening. Yep. Okay. So, looks like the one thing we're missing is the strike plate. Very common to find a missing strike plate because people take it off when our Yazoo clay makes it unable to be locked. So they just take the plate off. If we look in there, we're kind of eyeballing to see the top of the hole. It's, okay, yeah, there we go. We're seeing how it sits in the hole. Okay. And we're also checking just to see if it goes in the hole smoothly. And you can also tell by, you see that right there? That gives you a good indication of where the bolt needs to go. All right. So because of that, I'm going to hope that's in view. I think it is. But we need a strike plate on this door. So, centered in the hole pretty well. Just needed a bigger plate. So we're going to put the bigger plate up there. Mark it. Best we can. And okay, there's a nail right there. See that bad boy. I see you. Just sharpen my chisel and I'm not gonna hit you. Right over the nail. I know my arm's probably blocking your view of my body. You need a independently wealthy person who wants to follow me around all day. Help me film YouTube videos. Because I ain't paying for it. Alright, I think that will clear the way. Use of the bigger plate. Yep, that nail's right in the way. You're not going to be sharpening chisels today. Not going to do it. Brittle wood old brittle wood. Definitely gonna need a pilot hole to avoid splitting. Let's get our strike up here. Actually, this strike we can do short screws in to hold it, and then drive the longer ones in. So let's do that. And drill our holes for the bigger screws. And get them in there. Yes, you're right. The hardware is silver. Well, it's a silver deadbolt, and it's an antique lock. And I just put a silver strike plate in, but it's also a rental. Okay guys, that was another video that just abruptly ended. Right when I got done, I had a phone call which interrupted my phone. Then I thought I hit record to finish off locking the door and all that, and I didn't apparently, because I can't find that video. But anyway, so that is how you tend to a door that is really not being used anymore. Now, you know, some people are like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you fix it? Why didn't you make it a key? Because the landlord doesn't want that. The landlord who's renting it out only cares about the tenant being able to open and close that door, especially since it had that other deadbolt. So what I did is sufficient as to what the landlord wants to be done. Otherwise, the tenant would complain about not being able to come in and out the front door. So while we could have added that extra screw, we could have put a new thumb turn in, we could have keyed the cylinder, we could have pulled the Mortise lock out and totally refurbished it and probably made it work again. They don't, that's not what we're being called to do. We're being called to rekey the lock and get everything working to the point where the tenant can come in and out. So while yes, if that lock did not have the accessory deadbolt above it, it would have been a lot more involved to take the lock out and all that to make it work right. But again, we were just making it work as a passage function just so that they were able to open and close the door. So again, sorry about the abruptly ending video, and thanks for watching guys, and y'all have a great day.